The Cleveland Browns getting Dalvin Tomlinson to Cleveland was a huge move. There's no question about that. They added a bunch of other names to this room. But if this room cannot significantly improve in 2023, it's going to really, really offset the way the Browns want to play football. I'm Jeff Lloyd, your training camp defensive tackle preview on the latest Locked On Browns now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound LGB on the LLB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, as many of you know, if you're new, my 7th season here now with Locked On Browns for the Locked On Podcast Network. I have gone through a lot of the ups and downs with you all here over the last 6 seasons, now in year 7, covering your Brownies, the highs, a lot of lows, and all the in between. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. My suggestion is join the 6,000 plus strong of the everydayers who make Locked On Browns their first listen. The best way to do that is to subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. As I said, today is your defensive tackle training camp preview issue. We're going to get to, obviously, a little bit, Cleveland Browns news first and foremost, the leak. And, obviously, I think, it was probably something everybody expected. The video itself, I think they kind of basically just let us all know the Browns will be adding a white helmet here for the 2023 season. And look, you play the Ravens, black helmets. You play Pittsburgh, black helmets. You play the Cincinnati Bengals, orange helmets. Throwing in a white one, why not? Mix things up here a little bit. Everybody loves a little nostalgia. Everybody likes the throwbacks. We'll have to see. Show me the white uniform. Show me the white helmet. I'm assuming white helmet, solid orange stripe down the middle. Just another way to, maybe sell some apparel, of course. But the Browns make a switch here that I think most fans were looking forward to. Madden ratings are starting to leak. And there's not anything we're going to talk about here as far as Madden. I'm sorry. I've got nothing for you there. We're not even going to bother with it. Okay. Players are always unhappy. It's just the way it goes and whatever. I get, I just don't truly care. But your defensive tackle preview issue here. Of course, the Browns made a coup in getting Dalvin Tomlinson. Of course, they were in on all of the big name defensive tackles. As everyone tells you, they came in second in Javon Hargrave, but ended up bringing Dalvin Tomlinson here into the fold. Dalvin Tomlinson, in many ways, in my opinion, I'm not saying he's better than Hargrave, but I think for what the Browns need from Dalvin Tomlinson and all that they added as far as pass rushing, Dalvin Tomlinson should be a coup for them, obviously, in stopping the run. He's certainly going to need some help, and we'll get to that in segments 2 and segments 3 here. But whether it was his time with the New York Giants, whether it was time with the Minnesota Vikings, Dalvin Tomlinson has been an integral player on the interior. 6'3", probably these days weighing a little bit north of 330. Rocks the Carhartt gear like I love so much, so a man after my own heart. But Dalvin Tomlinson, and this is where it's going to be interesting. The Browns paid really, really good money, and I think a lot of people feel that Dalvin Tomlinson, is somebody that maybe they're hoping they can get some pass rush out of. His time in the NFL to this point, only 13 and a half sacks. I'm sure there's a sack or two that he will find and walk his way into. But Dalvin Tomlinson is going to be an integral player for this team on first and second down. The Cleveland Browns, the way this team is basically set up, is a team that wants to be playing with the lead. They want their offense to dictate games. They want to be able to throw the ball. They want to be able to run the ball to close it out. They want to score a whole bunch of points, amass a whole bunch of yards. You look at their defense. Their defense primarily is also built for a team that most likely will have the lead more often than not. A lot of pass rushers, a lot of secondary players. Now, with Dalvin Tomlinson coming in here, and again, we're going to get to this going further here, he's going to need help. But Tomlinson in his time with Minnesota last year. And there were times where Dalvin Tomlinson last year was just absolutely dominant with the Minnesota Vikings. The Browns are going to need more of that this season from Dalvin Tomlinson. They're going to need him to fortify that interior. He's going to have to take on some strong interior players all over the NFL, of course, here within the AFC North as far as blockers. But the Browns, this is the one they needed. This is the one they absolutely had to have. And of course, they went big game hunting when after all the big name available defensive tackles, and Dalvin Tomlinson was the one that found his way here. So with Dalvin Tomlinson in his first year here coming for the Browns, this is huge because it's a lot of question marks after this. And I'm not saying some of these guys can't finally find their way here, or some guys for the first time in any time, either in Cleveland or in the NFL, find their way here. But the Browns need this defensive tackle room to significantly improve in 2023. It was the biggest Achilles heel of this team in 2022. A lot of that was probably on Andrew Berry, certainly, on the organization themselves. They just did not put enough into the room, and it came back to bite them and bit them hard. And there were games where they were just thoroughly and absolutely embarrassed in trying to stop the run. The Atlanta Falcons game, if anybody wants to go back to that one. Also, they were hoping maybe they would get a little bit more pass rush. And to be honest, Taven Bryant, 3 sacks out of an interior player. That's not terrible, but it's certainly not earth-shattering at the same respect. The Cleveland Browns and Dalvin Tomlinson, this is key. I mean, he's just a workhorse, big-bodied guy. He obviously was another guy, and we talk about trying to get players who have expectations, who are used to playing in the playoffs, and Dalvin Tomlinson's had that time here in the NFL. And obviously a guy who's looking to change the culture here within the Browns locker room under new defense coordinator Jim Schwartz. And for Dalvin Tomlinson, this is a nice pairing. We've talked about this before. Jim Schwartz, whether it was in Tennessee with Albert Haynesworth, whether it was in Detroit with Ndamukong Suh, whether it was for a short time with the Buffalo Bills and Marcel Darius, and obviously his time with the Philadelphia Eagles and getting to play with some of the great interior players they have, and eventually winning a Super Bowl as part of that Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff. This is, I don't want to say it's the expectation, but this is the thought process. This is where the Browns are trying to get to. This is where the Browns should be trying to get to. And bringing in a player like Dalvin Tomlinson was huge in that respect. But as we get here and we start to switch it up here and go to segments 2 and segments 3, there's going to be some guys within this room that are simply just going to have to play ball that nobody has ever seen from them up to this point. And we're going to start to highlight those guys here as we move on through. I am Jeff Lloyd, host of Locked On Browns. I appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. Thank you all so much. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Continuing on here, segment 2, your host, Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. We are giving you your training camp preview of the defensive tackle position. Tomorrow's episode might switch it up a little bit. Connecting with a really good guest here, one of my favorite guys in the NFL content business. That should hopefully be tomorrow's episode, but somewhere along here, we're going to jump in. But don't worry, obviously, first week of Cleveland Browns training camp, we're going to get you talk on the linebackers as well, the cornerbacks as well, the safeties as well. Heck, we might be recording all weekend long here with the Browns opening up training camp. I'm excited. I hope you all are excited. Appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen. Join the everydayers. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Now you get into this second tier here of the Browns defensive tackle position. And it's obvious. I mean, it's one tier, top tier. it is Dalvin Tomlinson. And then after that, to be fair, let's not even say this is maybe tier 2. Heck, the rest of these guys may not even qualify for tier 3. But you have Jordan Elliott, and, hope springs eternal. Every time around this year, all we hear are positives on Jordan Elliott. Now, what are the facts with Jordan Elliott? The Browns reached a contract with Jordan Elliott and a little bit of a restructure to guarantee that he will be here for this year. So it does seem weird, that we hear all this pushing up and praise for Jordan Elliott and then working the deal to make it comfortable for both sides, where it was just enough to say, okay, this will make sure Jordan Elliott is here in 2023. It's year 4 for Jordan Elliott. Was a PFF darling when he came out of Missouri. And the Browns obviously, felt really highly of him. Jordan Elliott has played a lot of football for the Cleveland Browns over the last 3 seasons. But it's basically put up or shut up time. And it's not for just put up or shut up time for Jordan Elliott in his time here with the Cleveland Browns. It's put up or shut up time here for his time in the NFL, as Jordan Elliott is headed to a contract year and definitely wants to try to create some worth to his name, have some folks, excited about his game, hopefully drive up and, opportunity for Jordan Elliott to maybe cash in at the end of this year, get himself some more money here within the NFL. So for Jordan Elliott, it's been interesting, I would say, up until this point. Not always been a guy who could contribute in pass rush. Certainly his lapses as far as run defense. But, is this a guy that, Jim Schwartz can find something, can cultivate something, can find a meaningful role where we can see some significant, any contribution from Jordan Elliott for his first time here in season 4 with the Cleveland Browns. So certainly interesting there. And then now you get to the 2 wild cards within the room. Both players, thought of, Tristan Hill drafted pretty high, which shocked people back in the day. Maurice Hurst, obviously there were the scares of, was there an issue with his heart, which had him drop all the way to the 5th round, when in fact it didn't seem like there were any issues with his heart whatsoever. Maurice Hurst, when he was coming out of Michigan, was thought by many to be a first-round talent. Here was a guy who was stout against the run, wasn't a game wrecker, but also gave you pass rushing ability. If anybody remembers, as a rookie in 2018, Baker Mayfield's first start in Oakland at the time, Maurice Hurst did record a sack that game. For Maurice Hurst, he's always been the most tantalizing of players. And the tremendous amount of, what if he ever, found, the fortunate side of health, and I think that's what Browns fans as a whole are hoping for this season. For me, Maurice Hurst, myself personally, I am hoping for Maurice Hurst to find that, because it's always been a player where you watch the tape when he was healthy, and he just was such a smart, quick, decisive player. And when you get a player who had that much talent and has spent so much time watching the game, from afar as opposed to being a part of it, you hate to see it. It just, it's a really, really difficult thing. But Maurice Hurst is really here in a winnable situation for himself. Again, playing now for defense coordinator Jim Schwartz, playing on a very, very talented defense, and obviously came from San Francisco, where he was a part of a very, very talented defense there as well. Getting to play, maybe take snaps with a guy like Jordan Elliott, getting to be on the field where all the attention is going to go to a player like Myles Garrett. This is an opportunity for Maurice Hurst, unlike an opportunity maybe he's had in years past. Can Maurice Hurst and can, obviously the fairy, the fairy of health, basically sprinkle some on Maurice Hurst, and hopefully he gets that opportunity, to prove what everybody always felt about him this year with the Browns. Now we get to Tristan Hill, and Tristan Hill, it's when he started in the league, there were questions of, Tristan Hill himself, the maturity, the, being able to, put in the work, so to speak, to hone his craft, to put in the extra work, put in the film study that was required. He was athletic. He was pretty athletic, and was the reason it got it drafted higher than I think most people felt that he was deserved to, be drafted. But again, now here's a guy that's gone through his injury concerns as well. So it's been a rough road to this point for Trysten Hill here in the NFL. Trysten Hill, again, here, another guy coming in, an absolute wild card. And for the Browns, they need some of these wild cards to hit. We know what Dalvin Tomlinson is, but after that, again, it is nothing but uncertainty. At least Hill, Hurst, there was some promise once upon a time. Both of these signings, maybe similar to the Malik McDowell signing a couple of years ago, that did pay dividends at the time, but obviously was short-lived. That was as it was one season for Malik McDowell in Berea with the Browns. So for Hurst and Hill, this is, maybe one last chance, here in the NFL to find some success, to maybe cash in on a one-year deal worth, a decent amount of money as two guys who came to the league with some promise. And it's just really not gone that well for either guy up into this point. We're going to switch it up here. We're going to start to shift over here to segment 3. We're going to talk about the rookie. We're going to talk about Mr. Perion Winfrey, and we get some thoughts here on some of the NFL news today, where it appears the NFL teams do not want to pay their running backs. I am Jeff Lloyd. This is Locked On Browns. I appreciate you all for being along for the ride. This is Jeff Lloyd, host of Locked On Browns. As you all know, I've been here. This is now my 7th season with Locked On Browns. Always thankful to be a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. As you guys know, many content producers are starting to drift away from team-specific coverage, day-to-day team-specific coverage, which is all fine for us because this is the brand here at Locked On. So if you're missing your day-to-day coverage from other outlets, we are here for you every single day. Best way to make sure you're getting this content, best way of making sure you're joining the everyday crowd is by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And again, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. We continue on here, and we talk about, obviously, the rookie Ika. We talk about Perion Winfrey. Sorry, a little dry mouth. We get to Perion Winfrey, and it was interesting last year. Obviously, we got to know that Perion Winfrey was having issues being a professional. Maybe Perion Winfrey was a guy that was maybe gravitating a little bit more to a player like Jadeveon Clowney, when maybe he should have been gravitating a little bit more to a player like Myles Garrett, as far as learning NFL life, learning how to be a professional within the NFL. Then we get the off-season news. Perion Winfrey, obviously, an incident, as far as, somebody he may have been in a relationship with, and, where that left him, was Perion Winfrey, going to be somebody that was going to be, in serious trouble with the league? We still don't know. Obviously, there's no final word from the league on that to that point, but we do know as far as his legal standing, that part has been taken care of. Perion Winfrey went through a program which, basically absolved him of whatever did go on. There were times Perion Winfrey last year, later in the season, was starting to show some flash. You started to see that he was putting in more time and, playing interior defensive line. It's just grueling, man. It is a brutal position to play, because basically here it is, put your hand in the dirt and you may have 320 pounds coming at you. You may have 640 pounds coming at you, and you got to find a way to get off of it all and not give yourself up, because giving yourself up means most likely you didn't do your assignment, and just vacating a hole and putting others at risk. Again, the Falcon game, where your linebackers are just not in position yet to deal with said ball carriers. So for Winfrey this year, he needs to take some of the positives that he had last year. He needs to understand that assignment football is winning football. It's not just about, shooting gaps, trying to make a play, because when you don't in the NFL, you're putting your teammates' ASSs on the line, is flat out what you are doing. So for Winfrey, this is an opportunity here, because again, we talk about Elliott, we talk about Hurst, we talk about Hill. None of these guys proven commodities. If Winfrey can come in here with a clean slate, from the Browns, and we don't know if that's truly the case. But there is an opportunity here for Perion Winfrey to see some serious playing time within this defensive tackle room. He needs to go back to the player he was at the Senior Bowl, where he won the crowd over and won the coaches over by doing everything that was asked of him and doing it the right way. So that guy is in there. So if Perion Winfrey can become mobile Perion Winfrey could be a serious factor for the Browns here in 2023 as far as seeing playing time. And God knows Dalvin Tomlinson's going to need the help. Ika, now with Ika, I think the thing is, he should see short yardage reps right away, should see goal line reps right away, just due to, sheer girth. He's a big man. I know the Browns are hoping to get him around, somewhere to the high 330s, 340s. We'll see. Young man, obviously with some money in his pocket, maybe getting to eat better than he ever got to eat in his entire life. But ideally, that is, the plan for the Browns with Ika. And I think they feel he is a big part of the future of the defensive tackle room here in Cleveland. The question is how quickly, does the future kind of blend in with the present? And if other guys aren't getting it done, and you have this rookie that you thought highly enough to draft him where you did, you're probably going to have to start getting him some reps and seeing if your draft position of Ika works out and if it was worthy of it. Because the Browns, if you don't get much contribution from Elliott, Hurst, Hill, Winfrey, there's going to be an opportunity for Ika to get his reps and get his opportunities here with the Browns. So he's going to be an intriguing one. I'll bring up Tommy Togiai, maybe something, and this was always the thing with Tommy Togiai. When the Browns even drafted him and even when he declared out of Ohio State, there were so many that, man, another year in Columbus would have been the best thing for him. Well, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, so to speak. And this is where we're at. Tommy Togiai, look, you come in here, you play well this summer, you play well in camp practices, there's an opportunity that his chance is just as good as maybe anybody else's not named Dalvin Tomlinson. So again, with the new defensive coordinator who's got this specialty as far as defensive line goes, there's an opportunity for some of these guys or any of these guys, and let's hope some of these guys jump up here and seize the opportunity that's in front of them. Nobody's guaranteed anything. Are the Browns still going to make a move? Are the Browns still interested in free agent defensive tackles? I would absolutely think they are. Are they certainly going to be interested in looking at the defensive tackle market, come Labor Day weekend during final cuts? I would absolutely think that is something else that they're going to be a part of. You're never not done tinkering with your roster. But I think if we can all look at this Browns defensive tackle room and know that there's a lot of questions to it, I'm sure the folks in Berea know that just as well. Now, some news came out today from the NFL. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, Giants running back, Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys. Although Pollard coming off his injury, you can maybe kind of understand it a little bit more from the Cowboys' perspective than you do from maybe the Raiders or the Giants. And this is so interesting and so weird all at the same time that we talk about a team like the Cleveland Browns and who are so highly analytic and data driven. Give me every drop of data. We want to see all of it before we go and make the decisions that we do. The Browns did extend Nick Chubb and gave Nick Chubb a good amount of money. Now we see a lot of pause and a lot of hesitation from other NFL teams to do so. And look, I'm not going to question whether it's the right approach, whether it's the wrong approach. And even still, only time will tell how the approach works out. But now you have the Giants and you have the Raiders. Most likely, neither team will see Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley before week 1. And I don't blame either player at all for doing just that. They wanted their money. They did not get their money. Saquon, major bounce back last year. Josh Jacobs, as much as we all were maybe a little surprised at how high he was drafted by the Raiders when he came out of Alabama, has done everything to prove he is worthy of that. Again, I'm kind of just going to leave Tony Pollard out of this because coming off the broken ankle, I mean, the proof for Tony Pollard is going to be in whether or not he's all the way back. I don't know if the Cowboys were certainly hesitating with the money, but I think the injury probably was a little bit more of it. But if you're going to do this as NFL teams, and obviously Saquon Barkley was a first-round pick. Josh Jacobs was a first-round pick. And ideally, when your first-round picks pan out, you want to extend them. Certainly, the questions with Barkley, obviously with the injury, and, for Josh Jacobs, a little more different there. But the thing is, if NFL teams are in such a quick hurry to believe that either A, running backs are easily replaceable, or there is not that much different between the top running backs in the league and the mid running backs in the league, you're now forcing your scouting department, because if you're not going to pay these running backs, long-term deals, you're probably not going to spend high draft capital on them either, meaning first round, second round picks. So now you are putting extra pressure on your scouting department, putting extra pressure on development, that you are drafting lesser caliber running backs to perform somewhat equal to the running backs you do not want to pay. It's a slippery slope here. I feel bad for these NFL running backs, as it's always been the most dangerous position to play in the NFL. And now we're starting to trend towards this not going to get a second contract anyway. And it's a really, really difficult spot to be in when you look at it as players, as far as on the high school level, players on the collegiate level. This was once the most glamorous position in the NFL, being an NFL running back. Now it's viewed awkwardly. It's viewed much differently. And a lot of these players are in a really, really difficult spot here. You talk about Ezekiel Elliott, no home. Kareem Hunt, no home. Dalvin Cook, no home. Saquon Barkley, no contract. Josh Jacobs, no contract. These are really, really good football players, but it seems the NFL has really, really stood the line here as far as whether or not they view this positional group as one that gets big money. For the Browns, something we ain't got to worry about. Nick did his work, got to the contract extension early enough in his career, and so far it's paid big, big dividends. But this is certainly something to watch NFL-wise over the next few seasons. I am Jeff Lloyd, your host here at Locked On Browns, 7th season of Cleveland Browns coverage here with you all, Locked On Browns. It's been a great ride to this point. Looking for another great 7 seasons as well, hopefully, as if you all have me. So make sure you're following at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. To everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day, you are greatly appreciated. Join the club, join the Everyday Club, subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. We hit defensive tackle room today. As I said, we may switch it up and get in a guest tomorrow, then finish out positional group, but we'll see. If you didn't get to the defensive end episode, I suggest you jump all over that. Some big words about Myles Garrett, certainly his leadership, and the fact that that room is crazy, crazy deep. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.